We can't guarantee employment for everybody, but we can guarantee that everybody is employable. And that means that people have to be able to constantly transition in terms of their ability to adapt to new circumstances. And technology can play a critical role in that, but we've got to make sure that it's accessible and available to every person. And the last point I would make is that we've got to rebuild our social safety net that has not been adapted since FDR. So we've got to make sure that health care is available even when you lose your job, that you have a retirement account that follows you with the job. Part of the reason we're an innovative society is that we've always felt that, you know what, if we take a risk and we make a misstep, that there's some cushion there for not just us, but for our families as well. And that's why universal health care is so important. That's why creating new systems to help people save is so important, so that will actually spur on people's willingness to take risks in the marketplace. Right now, they don't feel as if they're able to do so. Okay.
A couple final questions from me, and then we'll ask some audience questions. I had the privilege, I was watching 60 Minutes, and I saw an interview with yourself and your wife, Michelle. And there were a number of questions to you, and then they asked your wife, and excuse this is a relatively personal question, it's a question about race. Mm-hmm. How did she feel about race, the dangers of the presidency, and so forth? And she said, I worry more about my husband walking down the street in the Senate, from the Senate, than anything else. And at that moment, I understood the gap in perception between people of races in America. Mm-hmm. And it was made vivid to me how different her view, my view, would be. Same question. Right. Can you talk a little bit about that issue in America?
Absolutely. Look, W.E.B. Du Bois said that the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. And if you expand that, the problem of the 21st century is the problem of the other, people who are not like us. Whether it's in religious terms, if you go to Sri Lanka, it's what's been fueling us over there, even though everybody looks exactly the same. Same in Northern Ireland, or it manifests itself in this country in racial terms, and that it has always been a nagging problem. There have been reports just this week that African Americans feel more pessimistic than they have in a very long time. And there's statistics that bear out how they, in fact, have not kept pace when it comes to economic growth in the country. The virulent anti-immigrant sentiment that we're seeing all across the country is something that has been striking. I mean, just in the last 2 years, you've seen a shift where, I fought for comprehensive immigration reform 2 years ago, and we didn't succeed, but there wasn't this raw anger about it that you see now when I'm campaigning among Democrats sometimes. So part of what I believe I bring to this office is somebody who sees the world through a variety of different races. My mother was white. My father was African. I grew up in Hawaii. I've got a sister who's half Indonesian. She's married to a Chinese Canadian. And,
sounds like Google.
Yeah. It's, family out about it. But people talk about our federal budget deficit. We have an empathy deficit. We aren't able to see the world through other people's eyes.
Yeah.
And that's what I think I can provide. Now, very concretely, what we need to do when it comes to issues of race, I think a lot of the tensions are tied to economics. African Americans and Latinos are much more likely to be unemployed, employed in lower wage jobs, will not have health care, substandard schools, drop out of school. So on every indicator, they're doing worse.